In the years of 1965 through 1966, Texas A&M College hired Don Haskins as their new basketball coach to go out and recruit the best players that he could find that would bring the school a championship. Don took the daring road of recruiting 7 black players. This was dangerous, considering these were still big times of segregation. He wanted to show the world that blacks were more than just their skin color, but truly gifted with talent. This changes the course of college sports, as this team inspires many college coaches to recruit black players such as Adolph Rupp and John Wooden themselves for their basketball team. This gave blacks more freedom to their civil rights as a society and as athletes. During this time of segregation, many blacks took to marching and protesting for their civil rights. For example, the March to the Pettus Bridge, led by Martin King, and the march around the Selma city limits, where more than 20,000 blacks marched for their rights. This march was attacked by state troopers of the city with clubs and tear gas. Days later, from California to Washington, D.C., people demonstrated against the police act in Selma. Michigan's Governor George Romney led a protest parade of 10,000 people. Demonstrators blocked rush hour traffic in downtown Chicago's Loop. In Selma, a second attempt to march is stopped. Months later, President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, a law that got rid of the literacy tests black people had to take before voting. Whites used this against the blacks, since they didn't get the best education. Many blacks during this time, though, loved sports, but were not treated well, but stood up for their own civil rights, such as Muhammad Ali in boxing and Jackie Robinson in baseball. But in basketball, some coaches' basketball philosophy was using 1 black at a home game, 2 at an away game, and 3 if you're losing. That philosophy changed when Don Haskins was hired as the new head coach for the Texas A&M basketball team. Before Don Haskins was hired to Texas, he coached girls basketball in several small Texan high schools. Going to Texas, he took a huge pay cut to get a chance of getting accepted for the coaching job at Texas College. When he signed a contract with the school board, he promised them that he would recruit a team that would bring them to the championship title. With the board's trust, he did just as he said, and scouted for months before the season started. What they didn't know is that he was looking for colored players more than white players, which was a dangerous route. Don and his scouting team ended up recruiting 7 black players. David Lattin, Neville Shedd, Harry Flournoy, Willie Cager, Ostrin Artis, Bobby Joe Hill, and Willie Horsley. At the beginning of the season, when all the players met, they did not get along at all. They did what any other white player would do, insult the blacks and give them scary looks. They had constant fights, in and out of school grounds. It almost seemed like they knew that their season was going to go downhill before it even began. On the first day of practice, Don had already been informed of all the trouble they had caused among themselves. He told his team, "We are going to play basketball my way, and my way is hard." The players took that as an understatement. Very mistaken. Don worked them hard every day a month before the season started, making them run, practice plays, and condition as hard as they could until the point of passing out. On the day of the first game, Don Haskins shocked the college basketball world by starting 3 of the 7 black players, which had never been done before. They silenced the arena as they took home an easy first win. They had kept on winning, game after game after game. They had gone on an impressive win streak, which no college had ever done before. But many white people hated this absurdity that Don had pulled. So they took action. They vandalized the black players' rooms, damaged their bodies, and even threw everything from dirty rags to dumping soda on the players as they walked onto the court from the locker room. As a team, they struggled immensely, but that didn't stop them from winning. They finished their regular season with 27 wins and 1 loss, the best record out of all the teams that season. The big NCAA tournament came around and the Texas Miners were entered in as a contestant, and they swiftly made their way to the final game to face the Kentucky Blue Devils and their head coach, Adolph Rupp, who was not a fan of recruiting black players. Adolph Rupp, overall, was an amazing coach, leading the Blue Devils to several championships. But the Texas Miners and Don Haskins won the game by about a margin of 12, 76-64. This brought Texas its first championship. But what's even more awesome is that it brought the college segregation line in the NCAA to an end. Even though Texas A&M College thought about firing Don Haskins due to the fact that he recruited 7 black players that sparked anger in several white people, they actually kept him for several years. He left a legacy in Texas by winning a grand total of 14 NCAA championships in his Texan career. Months after the Miners had won their first championship, other coaches were inspired by Don to recruit more black players, including Adolph Rupp. Even though Don encouraged them to continue a career in basketball, the 7 black players that were on his team pursued other careers in life. The NCAA, from then forward, contained an immense variety of black players, including some of the greats, such as Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and the first player to play in the NBA as a black, Earl Lloyd. The line of segregation in the NCAA completely faded as the years went by. Everyone was treated fairly, on and off the court. No violence had occurred against any other black player in the NCAA. All of this happened because of the one great coach, Don Haskins, when years later was put into the Hall of Fame in 1997. But it wasn't just him. The 1965-66 Texas Miners team was put into the Hall of Fame as well in 2008. Don Haskins put a basketball team together like no other and led them to an NCAA championship for Texas College, giving blacks stronger freedom for their civil rights and breaking off segregation in society and in the NCAA.